So this guy just drove over 6 hours to us to bring his Alpina B7. On paper, it looks like a $140,000 super saloon. Rare, fast, classy, but the used aftermarket prices, anywhere from $19,000 to $60,000 depending on the condition. And that's not just depreciation, that's a full swing. And yeah, if you're thinking you're about to get a steal, buckle up. This car might be your best steal ever or your biggest nightmare. Now, why is an F01 Alpina B7 special? First, the rarity. It's not like seeing another 7 Series at the grocery store. The performance, the twin-turbo V8 isn't just fast, it's calculated power with luxury manners. Styling, it's subtle, but every line screams understated refinement. And me personally, I've always had this unreasonable love affair with Alpinas. If you want the full history, my Alpina tribute video covers it better than I could in 30 seconds. It's a tribute. It's just a tribute. You gotta believe me, and I wish you were there. But here's the thing. These cars are based around the N63 motors, and if you followed FMU long enough, you know those can be temperamental. Valve stem seals, timing chain failures, oil leaks, injectors, turbo issues. They're the perfect storm of mechanical headaches. And yes, even with all those big ticket issues, dealers will still quote you thousands for stuff that's really just cleaning and small repairs. That's why people come to us from hours away. They actually want someone who understands what's under the hood and who respects the car and can see the cascade of problems before they even start the work. But by the end of this video, you'll see just how messy these things can get, what went wrong first, and why repairing an Alpina is about more than just throwing parts at a BMW. You'll also get a look at what it takes to bring one of these rare, high-mileage cars back to proper driving condition without losing the soul of the machine. And because we like to have fun while doing it, I promise you some FMU dry humor along the way, because if you can't laugh while staring at chunks of catalyst, what's the point? So typically when a customer comes to us from out of state, more often than not, it's for our exhaust work, but that's not always the case. What we have here is an example of just that. Somebody who thought nobody closer could work on their car except for us, which is kind of an honor because I actually was factory trained in these cars when they first came out in '09. Maybe not this particular model, but the chassis itself, and that is the BMW 7 Series F01 chassis. We have an Alpina B7 here from the Ozarks area, way out in Missouri. I believe that's a 6-hour plus drive just to get here. And even when the customer called, having issues, smoke, and a bunch of other items they wanted us to check out, we made sure, isn't there anyone a little bit closer than us between here and there that you'd rather take it to? That's an awfully long drive, but they insisted to drop the car off with us, and we are checking it over top to bottom because when you come out from that far, I want to make sure that we're not going to be wasting your time and not making it worth the trip. So basically, we've inspected the car, Keller's looked it over, and we've got a few issues and concerns that are very common with this chassis as the mileage creeps up, because the miles have creeped up on this one. So we're gonna go over it, the common pitfalls, what you see, and then probably get into what we're gonna have to do to fix it, which could be potentially quite extensive. All right, how bad is it?
I mean, as soon as you get it up, just
It's
big glaring oil leak.
It's so,
Like, yeah.
what is this, the valve covers? Yeah.
I was thinking like the upper pan at first because they leak quite a bit, but it does start up high.
It's kind of one of those trouble things where you got to start with the highest leak, fix
Yeah.
that, clean it off. But at the same time, doing the upper pan though is a big job, especially if, you know,
Yeah.
we've got to do something up top. I'd rather start up top and go from there. And that's usually the way you got to treat that. Fix the top oil leak, going down, clean everything off, and then watch to see what leaks after that. Otherwise, you're just replacing everything. But
I did hear some clicking when I was driving this, and
look at that.
again, like a big.
Yeah, I worry that if you just do the boot, if you already heard clicking, is it going to fix it? Just throwing the grease on there and throwing the boot on there.
Yeah, I don't want to sell a bunch of parts, but
You don't want to do the job twice either, right?
same thing on this one. I didn't hear it on this side, but again, this joint is dry. All the grease is gone.
Did you catch the mileage on this thing? I know it's over 100.
Yeah, 160,000.
160?
Which is pretty good.
Do you think they've been through one set of valve stem seals already? I know he's potentially here for a smoking issue.
Yeah.
But what are the chances that it made it that far on a single set of valve stem seals? I'd actually be impressed.
That'd be pretty cool.
Now it looks like the oil pan's a little bit wet back here, but at least for the trans, it also could be just like blowing back. It's hard to say.
Yeah, because it is still wet or oily at the front of the transmission.
So it might be something that you clean off and watch, but I don't know. Or maybe let them know that possibly you might need to do it. It's not like it's looking red either, you know, it kind of looks brown. But it doesn't mean that it didn't turn brown over time. What do you think about these paint marks on the drive shaft? I noticed that over here. It's kind of weird, right? I don't know if I've seen that. This one's red, like someone sprayed red spray paint up there, and that one's yellow.
Yeah, that is weird. It's on the differential and transfer case too.
And like you can see the paint go all the way up on the differential, like between the mating and the block there, the pan, which is like someone just blasted it. I don't know. Kind of funky, kind of funky.
Maybe you can call Alpina, see if they did it.
So it looks like there's quite a lot of play in those turbos, and that kind of gets us to a little bit of a conundrum, right? They are here for smoking, and we know that these things have all sorts of valve stem issues.
Yeah.
And the chances that this is like the only set of valve stems they're on at 160,000 miles, I think is low. Even that it made it this far, but the turbos can contribute to a smoking issue as well. But you don't want to quote the turbos, do all that, and then find out it's leaking afterwards. So really, I don't know. What do you think the best way to kind of narrow down on that is?
Like, I think they kind of would show the smoke differently, you know, like if you let it idle there and then romp on it, like I don't think if it's just the turbos, it's going to build up on top of the valve stems and all come out then, you know?
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of what I...
But also, like, you're right with the turbos. I don't want to replace turbos and then call them back and say you need, you know, double the amount of work.
All right, so that play looks pretty not great, which concerns me in the sense that we potentially have two areas that could be contributing to the smoke and oil.
Yeah.
So the conventional stomp test, you need to have okay turbos in order to like for that to be accurate, you know what I mean?
Right.
But the valve stem seals, if they've never been done, chances are that they need to be done. And if we're doing the valve covers and we're doing everything else, like there's overlap already, you know what I mean? Like with all that stuff. So it's like to potentially take the chance that it's just the turbos, like in this quote, you know, and be like, you know, that I think that'd be like dangerous. Like you get the customers' hopes up and stuff like that. Oh, whoa.
Covering the ignition coils.
And look at the rust on here. I'm surprised the coil stayed good that long. That's definitely not helping.
Some of them have been replaced because they don't all match.
But this one's going to have to be replaced. I mean, even if it's fine right now, I'm not putting that back in the car. So what you're seeing here is an all too common result of BMW's over-engineering the service position of the N63 Hot V turbo motors. I say service position because there are a ton of reasons for it to have to come down out of the chassis. And a lot of those reasons are going to be taken care of in this single visit, but because of the intensity of doing this, we have to make sure that going back in that we've kind of covered more than a few things and we check more than a few things that we might not have seen before the engine was out. Now on the N63s, it's actually pretty hard to get to the catalytic converters / downpipes. Usually you're dropping the engine in order to take them out, which is why we might not have seen this beforehand. Looking inside of here, you can see obvious and evident damage of the catalyst starting to come apart. It's probably much worse in there, collapsing, various material hitting the cells. And if you think the deformation in this side looks bad, wait till you see this side. I mean, it is completely destroyed. Chunks, holes burnt through, evidence of melting soot. It is a disaster inside of there. Really, really bad. Now, how does this happen? Multiple ways. You could get a situation where fuel, but most likely oil, soot from the valve stem seals these are known for, the PCV system these are known for, the turbos, which we obviously had play and need to be replaced. Any of those can contribute to the rapid deterioration of these cells, causing them to come apart. This in turn creates a waterfall effect where one thing leads to the other and makes everything else worse. But these are some of the worst cats I've seen that were still running on a car. Really, really bad. Probably causing other issues, probably sped up the turbo failing, but again, it's a chicken or the egg issue. And it's partially why the reason I'm just not a fan of the N63, S63 for these reasons, at least when it comes to reliability. Now, what originally had brought us having to remove this engine was the fact that we knew we had to take the turbos out, but we also knew we were doing the valve stem seals. Now, those jobs in themselves can be done in the car. A little bit more care has to be taken to not drop the retainers, but generally it's a little bit easier if you've got the engine out. And once you know how to get the engine out, it's not terrible to have to do, gives you more space, allows you to not have to be so careful. But we've started the valve seal job, and I'll show you basically what I'm talking about when I mention valve seals. Now, each of these valves here has a stem, as most of you car guys know, and on that stem is a rubber grommet, a seal that keeps the oil from the camshaft crankcase area here from dripping down into the valves. Now, BMW had a faulty design, which has since been upgraded, that keeps that from happening. They went with a different type of seal design, different type of material. And putting that in a lot of times alleviates it. However, this is an all too common occurrence to have to do those along with the turbo. But the other common thing is that a lot of these direct injection motors have to be cleaned, the intake valves. And because this is now a hot B engine with the exhaust manifolds in the middle with the turbochargers, the only good way to get the cleaning wands with the walnut shells into is to take out the actual engine, to access the manifolds, to be able to get the stuff inside there. So that's recommended between 30 and 60,000 miles, every 30 to 60,000 miles, which having your engine out every 30 to 60,000 miles doesn't really lead to a good ownership experience. But unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of this beast. Now, we are doing the seals, and once we do the seals, we go back together. We are then doing a leak down test, but unfortunately, this leak down test has shown that we're near 30% leak down on this cylinder, and it's gonna be hard for you guys to hear, but you hear that hiss. If you hear that hiss, that is air leaking from the valve, and the reason I know that is because I can feel it and hear it. Now, what I hope is going on here is that the carbon getting on the intake valves and into the cylinder is kind of gummed up the valve stem seats to the point where maybe it's just not sealing enough. Could we try to push the valve down, open it up, and maybe try to chemically clean that area? You definitely don't want to use media because that gets in there and you can't get it back out. It's a blind hole. It might work, but here's the reality. Going from this to removing the cylinder head to make sure that there's no other issues going on isn't anything more than a head gasket and maybe some bolts. And if you're going this far apart, it's definitely not one of those things that you wanna take a chance on, because if you go back together and you still have a misfire when you're done, it's gonna be really hard to convince the customer that, oh, that issue was there before. Well, why didn't you check it? It's just not a situation you wanna be. And that's exactly the reason why we're going further in doing a leak down test after doing the valve stem seals, because we've been here before, we've seen it happen before, we've seen an issue like this happen before. So we want to be sure that we get the fix right This thing is showing a few spots it's leaking in. Let's get those heads off. As much as we don't want to continue this bill to go up, we're this far down, and the last thing you want to do is pay for this to all go back in and be like, well, you know, you didn't go for us. We didn't get the authorization to take the cylinder heads off. Well, we're gonna know one way or the other, even if it takes us more time that we might not be able to really put into the bill that extra discovery for this. One way or the other, this is gonna benefit the customer. It benefits us in having a good job done at the end of the day. And that's really all you can do, even if it is a little frustrating at this point.
Now that we have the valve stem seals done, we have the engine back in the car, everything cleaned up, putting the belly pans on right now, and getting ready to ship it off.
Here's what gets me about Alpinas. They're rare. You don't see many 7 Series Alpinas on the road, and even one with 160,000 miles like this one still earns respect. Finding one for half of what it costs new sounds like a win, but passion has to come before resale value, or you're gonna hate owning it. Design-wise, nobody has ever done the 7 Series better than Alpina. Honestly, if they didn't look the way they do, I might lean towards something like that M760 V12 we did the exhaust on, but Alpina's always nailed a balance of luxury, subtle aggression, and yes, it still roasts the tires if you ask. The ride feels like a 7 Series should. The suspension tweaks are tasteful, and even the wheels are beautiful if the tires look like they belong on a bicycle. As a BMW Master Tech, I've always gravitated towards Alpina over M cars, and that's a hot take, but it's the class, the rarity, and the fact that they feel built for someone who appreciates the car more than the brochure specs. But let's not pretend there isn't a downside. BMW wasn't exactly building tanks in this era. Take a low production model, crank up the power, and then hand it to people who daily them for 100,000 miles, you're eventually gonna see some chaos. It's part of the thrill and part of the gamble. And look, spending money to revive one of these is no different than dumping cash into a turbo B58 build, a draggy record, air suspension, or a full bolt-on catalog. One crowd wants numbers, the other one wants presence. Both are lighting money on fire, but it's justified if the car gives you something back. Old heads will nod at assorted Alpina, and younger guys will flex a 9-second Z4. Different flavors, same addiction. So, as you guys can probably tell, one of the most important things we do after we do a big job is test driving, and this is not just a test drive of the car after we get everything together and it gets out. This is a comprehensive test drive under all circumstances and basically use that the customer would try to have in the next few days. If you're gonna spend a lot of money, and probably more than you should have on this car fixing this, you're going to want it back with as few problems, or at least to be aware of as many problems that are also going on. So, as you can see, the battery seems like it's having a little trouble keeping up. And that's definitely something that we cannot give back to the customer. I mean, when you do that much work on a vehicle, you don't want to hear the car starting up slow. I mean, really, Kelly, like, when you get down to it, like, how many systems did we touch?
I mean, just by dropping the engine, you know, steering, sway bars, exhaust, cooling.
I mean, when me and
turbos.
You originally looked at it, we were thinking about the turbos, but we knew the engine would have to come apart just being up there. And the amount of work that actually ended up getting done, the amount of parts, I mean, valve seals.
Yeah, I mean, you take all the parts off, lay them out, like, you can't even see your toolbox anymore. I mean, starting from, like, the inside out, like, the valve seals, carbon cleaning all the valves, carbon cleaning the passages inside the cylinder heads, you know, new gaskets for everything we took apart, cylinder head gaskets, valve covers, fuel pumps, you know, whatever's attached on top of the engine, exhaust, new catalytic converters, new turbochargers, some cooling hoses, you know, some were leaking, some we like to replace while we're in there because, you know, they're plastic, they just get so hot. Like, maybe it's not leaking now, but why spend the extra labor later and replace it if we know it's a known problem?
That being said, this thing feels really, really good. And I'm actually pretty impressed. Chris did a great job getting this thing together. No leaks, nothing going on, but I still got to give it 2 days just to make sure what I'm saying is the truth. But so far, so good. Let's get these wheels balanced and make sure that battery is going to either last, toss a new one in there, charge it up, whatever we're going to do. But I definitely don't want this thing slow cranking. So I'll just give it a little gas. And that feels excellent. Definitely not clogged up cats like before, and not a wobbly turbo. All right, so after 2 days of driving and a little over 25 miles, ran into some issues that we're going to have to take care of. Had the car stop and do the auto start where it kills the car for gas mileage and then restarts it just as you're going, but it didn't want to kick back on. Through a fault, said transmission issue, and then shortly after the check engine light turned on. Now, I was able to just pop it back into gear and drive away, and it didn't do it again, but it also had the message on that auto start stop wasn't no longer available. So I'm scanning it, and what I have inside of here are a bunch of various voltage faults. Now, I talked about that long crank in the battery. When we tested the battery, it did show low charge, but it said if we charged it, it might come back. So that's what we did. I did an overnight charge, very slow trickle charge. Tested good, but a little low. Tested good, just on the hair side of good, which, you know, once it gets going and starts using stuff, that doesn't mean it's always good. It just depends on the state and how long. There's more tests you can do, but I'm just doing this quick without removing the battery. And bunch of voltage faults. Now, anytime you're dealing with BMW, that first set of faults, and you can see all of these all the way up and down, lots and lots of faults. That first set, after a voltage issue, or anytime you see multiple voltage faults, you're just gonna throw most of them out. There is so much garbage in there that when low voltage occurs, things freak out. And if I went after any of one of these, worried too much about it, before taking care of the voltage issue, I could be going down a bad rabbit hole. And I know that because I went down a lot of bad rabbit holes. So if you're doing a scan, you're checking your faults, doing something of a scan like on this AutoFix D1S. You guys might remember the video I did on this, but this thing works pretty good for jumping in here and just checking faults out. But don't believe everything you say until you got the battery set and well. I'm probably gonna end up tossing another battery inside of this thing. The other thing I noticed, car wants to pull a little bit. You have to correct it by holding it to the left. So we did have the subframe out, and because we didn't really drive the car around or weren't really looking for that, not something that I noted beforehand. And lastly, these door handles, they're just really bothering me. Definitely gummy, they're coming apart. And if I put a bunch of money into this nice car and had to touch that every single time I got in and out of the car, it would drive me crazy. So I'm probably gonna give the customer a quote on doing those inner door handles. Hopefully they're not part of the door panel and I could get them separately, or someone's come up with a solution, but just one of those things I'd hate to leave it that way. So we still got a few more things to take care of before this car gets wrapped up. But that being said, the engine is driving really nice, good power, no faults related to the engine, just a bunch of stuff that seemed related to voltage. So far so good, but again, it highlights the importance of test driving these cars afterwards. It's not just about putting a few miles on it. You need a lot of start-stop cycles, cold to hot, driving back and forth in all sorts of ranges in order to really know that if all of this work, this engine being this far apart, is going to stay that way when you give it back to the customer. And sometimes that can take as long as some of the bigger repairs, but I like to be sure here before I give it back to the customer. And once I know everything's good, it's got my seal of approval, we can get this thing out of here.
Hi, my name is Mark Castillo. I'm from Lynn Creek, Missouri, right on the Lake of the Ozarks, and I'm about six and a half hours away. I'm particular about my car. I've been looking to have somebody that I'd allow touch it. So I've got an M5 with the V10, so the E60. And so I've seen their videos on the exhaust. And so I started to look them up a little bit more and watching the care OJ takes with stuff. And so, yeah, I gave him a call and said, you know, can I have you guys work on my car? I've been waiting for this. Let's go for a test drive. Sounds great. Handles great. Steering is tight, responsive. All I have to say is, OJ, you and the team, you guys rock. You guys really rocked it out.
After all the valve stem seals, turbo work, and the catalytic converter meltdown we uncovered, here's the reality check. If you're thinking about buying an Alpina B7, have half of the original sticker price somewhere in your head because repairs aren't optional on these. They're inevitable. This one came in under 160,000 miles. The owner spent about $20,000 and he's still sitting well at under what one would cost with low mileage. And even those low milers are still going to need the same work eventually. So from a technical standpoint, the chain reaction was classic. Valve stem seals let go, that stressed the turbos, and the exhaust temps vaporized the oil and melted the cats. First we handled the big stuff and then took care of the other things: suspension, alignment, subframe, little tweaks, and small electrical gremlins. A couple of wear items got deferred, but nothing that affects how the car drives. Emotionally, this is where people get it twisted. Keeping an Alpina alive isn't financial insanity any more than someone dropping 10 grand on a B58 build or a body kit and wheels. One guy buys rarity and heritage, the other one buys boost and clout. It's the same emotional math. And if you're worried about resale value, skip it. But if the experience makes you grin, that's a return on investment. And the respect factor? These cars carry the same trajectory the E38 took. Ignored, trashed, then suddenly beloved. When the F01s start getting that treatment, it'll be Alpinas leading the charge. So if you go with your heart, a realistic number in your head, and the right shop backing you, you'll enjoy owning these way more than you'll regret maintaining it. And for me, it's projects like this that are exactly why I still love turning wrenches on these cars. This car may be fragile and expensive, but it deserves respect. Now, would you take on a car like this knowing the work involved? Drop a comment. I want to hear from you Alpina lovers, exotic V8 fans, or anyone tempted to grab a rare BMW at less than half the price. At the end of the day, it's about connection, history, and keeping something rare alive. Some cars are just numbers, but Alpinas are an experience, and it's up to you to decide if you want that experience. For us, it's about showing you what's possible, what to watch for, and why these cars are worth the effort. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll talk to you on the next repair.